This is Trinity Report Week 10. We're not coming to everybody live, but we're putting this out there hopefully before your waivers run going into Week 10 with Ray. Another Trinity show. We are officially more than halfway through the season now that we're through 9 weeks. Fantasy playoffs only goes till 17. So, Ray, we are officially more than halfway through. I think all of the conclusions that we probably want to draw on environments, quarterback play, those are really starting to round out into form. There's some interesting ones to look at this week with some breakout players, with some maybe quarterback changes potentially on the horizon. But what's good, my friend? Welcome to Week 10 or Week 9 recap pre-Week 10 Trinity. What's up?
Yeah, man. Like you said, we are over, we're at that halfway point. We've got a big super stream coming up next week, our midseason mayhem stream. So make sure you tap in for that. Jay Rich and I have been talking about it, but me, you, Shane, Brandon, Ty, the whole crew, we're going 2.5, 3 hours strong, all things Dynasty. So it's about that time, man. But usage, receivers, tight ends, welcome back. Big Brock, welcome back. Big Brock Bowers, Monday Night Football, Cowboys, Cardinals. We're recording this early on Tuesday for you all. So the Monday Night Football game won't be updated until probably noon today, but just know Marv and Trey McBride and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens and Jake Ferguson are going to be your leaders in Trinity score for those teams. Marv was awesome in the game. Lamb and Pickens did what they needed to do. I mean, they didn't bust for you. Wish you would got a touchdown out of those guys. And then Jake Ferg, 5 for 50, kind of doing his thing at the tight end spot. So by the time you get this, depending on when you check into the video, it may be live, it may be not, but those 5 players are going to be at the top of the usage. Like, they're good players, and Marv had a great get-right spot against the Dallas Cowboys last night. So excited to kind of dive into this. I was looking at it a little earlier, Scott. So, yeah, man, Week 9 recap. We're talking usage, wide receivers, tight ends. Where do you want to go? You got 2 dots at the far right, very high up, very high up.
Yeah, and for those that are watching this, you are a member. You probably are already subscribed to the Trinity Tool, but if you don't have it and you're watching this back later, ddfantasyfootball.com, that's where you can get access to it. I don't know. Let's just start on the top Trinity score of the week. I mean, you already mentioned Brock Bowers. I guess we can start with that. I mean, he came back. We were talking yesterday in the Discord. I mean, a 9.62 Trinity at tight end might as well be like an 11 at a receiver spot. It's just so far above what you
Yeah.
typically get from tight ends. And then, of course, he had the 3 touchdowns. I mean, just literally came back and probably had the best game you'll see from a tight end this year. Not even close. Like, it's going to be hard for
I
anybody to match
believe
that.
I believe his scoring was the second highest since like Darren Waller in 2019. That's how good it was. I mean, think Colson Leveland went 6 for 118 with 2 touchdowns, and here he is back here. Like, he looks like he's down below Brock Bowers. There's only one player at this position capable of something like that, and it's number 89 Bowers.
Yeah, man. Like, it's honestly, it's only, I want to say it's only downhill from here, but like, you feel good if you have him because he's back. He's going to get used better than any tight end in the league. But it is like probably the best game he'll have in his career, to be honest. And that's fine. Hopefully you had it back in your lineup. I can't imagine anybody didn't start him. But what teams you want to start with? I have one that comes to mind that I think is important to look at.
Go ahead.
So I don't know if you have
Go
one
ahead.
that you
Yeah,
want to
lead the
start.
way. Lead the way. And I'll just say I don't. The fact that he's done this in like his 20th career game at this level, I don't think that will be the best game of his career. I can absolutely. You're talking about a player in his second year. Like, I think the better way to frame that is there's probably only one player capable of having multiple games like this in his career, and that's Brock Bowers.
Let's go to Green Bay. Let's look at Green Bay just for the season so far,
All right.
because I think that's one where we have to adjust a little bit. I mean, you see Tucker Kraft. When you see a grouping like this, right, basically everybody's at the regression line or below except for Tucker Kraft. So that typically tells us that he's probably pretty good, right? Like, he's probably one of the preferred options you throw the ball to given what he's done with his workload. Jordan Love is still top 3 in the league in passing efficiency. But now you can remove that Tucker Kraft bubble. And let's talk about what does this mean for Green Bay going forward. They've had Wicks out, but he should be coming back. They should have Jaden Reed coming back in week 11, and they have Watson and Dobbs and Matthew Golden. And I've gotten a couple questions about Luke Musgrave, and his Trinity is down in the pedestrian gnat range, but he probably at least gets a little bit of a bump up because he will be the tight end. So I don't know. Does this change anything for you with Green Bay, given the removal of Tucker
Yeah,
Kraft?
I think I talked about this in my Yahoo Instant Reactions article on Sunday night. I think this is a massive, major loss for Green Bay. A big time loss for Green Bay. He was the engine of this offense. We had just talked about him essentially being this version of George Kittle. His efficiency, he wasn't living on huge volume, and then to be lost with the torn ACL, just devastating for him. Really sucks in fantasy because if you got Kraft, you didn't have to pay crazy prices for him, and he's been a hammer and a tank for your rosters. You're getting Reed back. You've got Matthew Golden in the fold. They threw the ball to Josh Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson a lot. I don't think – here's what I don't believe is going to happen. I don't believe Luke Musgrave is going to be a one-for-one replacement for Tucker Kraft. I do think that Green Bay 2 weeks in a row have shown you how they want to use Christian Watson. Like, he's going to get 2 to 3 deep shots every game. They're going to throw the ball downfield. Jordan Love is that type of quarterback. Romeo Dobbs becomes way more attractive. I think the market for the market for all these receivers, but Dobbs and Watson in particular, should be pretty fluid because they shouldn't be guys that should cost a lot. You know, if you're a failed contender, I would be looking to move Romeo Dobbs. If you are a competing team, I'd be looking to acquire. I think there should be some pretty fair deals out there for him moving forward with this offense that still should be pretty good. I want Watson. I want Dobbs. Reed will probably get his when he comes back as well. I actually think a sneaky play to absorb some of those low-end area targets might be Savion Williams as well. They've utilized him a little bit on this team over the past couple of weeks, but by and large, I want Dobbs and I want Watson.
Yeah, it's interesting because they re-signed Christian Watson, and then obviously everybody else is still on a rookie contract, right? I think Dobbs, this is a great opportunity for him to be, you know what name comes to mind, and he's maybe a little bit better than this guy, but he kind of feels like he's the next like Josh Palmer, where he hits free agency and going to get probably overpaid given the price that receivers go for. And he probably can be used for the rest of the season as a pretty strong starter. But then next year in the offseason, you do have another asset that could change teams, which typically means you can move those players again. So I don't think he's a bad buy. You probably would rather use something different than a draft pick to get him. But can I tear off one of these receivers that people perceive as like a sexy wide receiver too? Like, honestly, who outproduces who the rest of the year? Romeo Dobbs or Jordan Addison?
I would bet on Dobbs.
And that's one where I think the dynasty value is still on Addison, but looking at exactly what the Vikings went back to with McCarthy, I'm not sure Addison's getting a bigger piece of the pie, and I don't know if the pie is really any better in Minnesota than it's going to be in Green Bay. So that feels like one, if you're just willing to fade the name, that's how I'd rather acquire Dobbs. What I don't want to do is give up like 2 seconds to get him. I'd rather just address that spot cheaper. But yeah, I think you can take shots on any of these Green Bay receivers. I also think you could sell any of them because people are going to say, well, Kraft's out, so it's wheels up for Watson or wheels up for Golden or Reed comes back and people want him. Like, I think you could say we're still out of the Green Bay business until they quit spreading it around to like 6 different guys.
Yeah, I like Dobbs and I like Watson. This is a team and an offense that are very much in playoff contention. There is no clarity at the top. No NFC team has shit on lock. So honestly, if I'm not overanalyzing this one. I want Dobbs and I want Watson. And when Reed comes back, I'll probably want him as well. So I think the market should be fluid on these pass catchers. My question to you is, what do you do with Kraft? Is that somebody, if you were a contending team and you lost him, would you be looking to move him, or is that somebody you want to hold until next year? You know, torn ACL at this point. I've got to be consistent with what I've said all year. Like, I just don't have a lot of interest in those guys, you know, returning from that injury. I guess you'll wait and see if they've got a miraculous Stephon Diggs type recovery. But even then, look how long it took him to get ramped up. What are you doing with Kraft?
Yeah, the tough part about Kraft is this is a later in the year ACL, potentially additional damage. So it could be like he doesn't even have that surgery for another couple weeks. You're into December almost. And, I don't think Green Bay is going to say we're going to move on from Kraft, but I also don't know if they bring him back next year in week 1, he is their primary option. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like this could be one of those where he kind of slow plays the recovery and maybe I'm completely wrong, but we don't like to bet on those guys that have the late season ACL tears to just be back to normal next year. And then you're kind of flirting with do they extend him? What's their view on him? I think they do. I think they probably value him very highly, but I have no problem moving off on him. I made a deal immediately when the games ended. I am a second place team, Ray. I gave up Tucker Kraft. This is a 2 tight end league. So it's one of those where like tight ends are no, actually it's a 2 PPR, only 1 tight end. But I gave up Tucker Kraft and my first. So we're talking like a playoff pick, right?
Yeah.
And I got back Saquon Barkley, Travis Kelce, and Stephon Diggs. And it's a best ball. So basically I used Kraft to get, I guess you want to call it Kelce and Diggs, maybe.
How
But like
much
I don't know what else you could
how
not know
much
what else you
bad
can do with them.
information did you have on that manager? What did you have over their head to get them to make that deal? Because that's a great deal for you in a best ball league. What dirt did you have on that manager to get that deal done?
Well, I had to kick in a third. Not that that really matters, but
It doesn't.
it was just the team was out of it. They wanted to push a little bit lower, and the key was I didn't just trade Kraft for Kelce or Kraft for Diggs or whatever. I was able to use, because you could argue that maybe Saquon isn't worth more than a first. But you know what? It was important. I was able to get the type of deal that I wanted. I was looking
Yeah,
for a deal where I gave up all the stuff I didn't want for a bunch of stuff that I did, and I used Kraft that way. That's what it
absolutely.
feels like you have to do. You're not moving Kraft to get Trey McBride. Like he's not going to count
Right,
much in the deal. So
right.
you probably got to be more creative. Just play the tight end position a little different.
Let's go to Indianapolis. Let's look at the Colts. Let's look at the Colts. They're an interesting one. We'll start with week 9 for the Colts and in a very negative game script in which Daniel Jones was awful in this matchup and they were forced to throw the ball 50 damn times. Everybody above the line, everybody that was involved above the line, which means when they had some time to throw the ball, they weren't bad. And then just being put in negative game script. But you got Michael Pittman leading the way. Well, actually, Alec Pierce leading the way. 8.23 Trinity score, 8.17 for Michael Pittman. Both of those players over 17 points with Michael Pittman at 20. Josh Downs got in the end zone. And let's just look at the Colts for the full season. Alec Pierce continuing to be utilized. Daniel Jones still supporting 4 options in this passing attack. You have seen Warren fall back a little bit, Josh Downs fall down a little bit, but by and large, it's still consolidated at the top with these 4. But Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce in particular, I think 2 players who are quietly still going under the radar. Pittman has been very, very good, 16 points per game this year, part of a very good offense. Alec Pierce, best ball. You don't have. What do you think about this Colts offense? I bought Pierce ahead of last week. I've continued to talk about Antoine Pierce on the show with Matt Harmon. I like this offense and I like this player because he's the cheapest of the 4, no doubt. Like he's much cheaper than Pittman, Warren, and cheaper than probably Josh Downs. So, what are your thoughts with this Colts offense and the usage?
Yeah, we talked about Pierce, I think, last week, just as like he was one of those sneaky,
Yep,
you can pivot off a more valuable player.
we
This
did.
is actually still a top 8 environment for pass catchers. So this is actually like a mini version of what the Chargers are, right? Meaning I'm confident in all 4 of the pass catchers, but it's probably going to be like 2 of them that are very startable every week. The only difference between the Chargers and the Colts is, Jonathan Taylor had his worst game of the year in this game. So unlike the Chargers, the Colts also have a running back where they're like, man, we probably want to give him 40% of the offense, and then we get to our 4 receivers. So it's a little bit crowded, But I think, like you said, if you have Pierce, you just play him. And he's going to have some games like this. He's going to have some lower scoring games where Downs does more and Warren does more. But I think the key is it's the environment that you probably want to just put the pass catchers in when you have them. Like there's probably not a lot of things you can do with these guys, right? Like you don't want to. Every player I would ask you about the Colts receiving weapons, you're going to say they're worth more to my roster than what I can trade them for. Maybe Josh Downs still has a little hopium above what you can probably get out of him production wise, but I think the others, like when someone says, here, I'll buy Michael Pittman from you, they're not giving you a first. And you're like, dude, I have a
Right.
top 15 receiver. Alec Pierce, I'll give you a third. Now I'd rather play him. Like every answer is I'd rather just keep him and start him. So I think it's just a mini Chargers. It's a great environment. It continues to be, regardless of what Jonathan Taylor does.
And here are the last 3 weeks for the Colts. It's honestly been Pittman and Pierce. It's been Pittman and Pierce, and anytime just a word, a clue, a tip, something that I use this tool, and I've always used it for. Anytime I see players in good offenses, good environments, this far to the right of the chart, that lets me know that the usage is unequivocally there. Like this is what you want to see. And when they're kind of below the line, that just means that they're not producing up to that expectation level, but there is opportunity for positive regression. And I just like to buy those players. I like investing in guys that are used a lot. I trust the usage. And if you continue to get used in that manner in a good offense, which you could tell this is, like that should flip at some point. And I think Alec Pierce is a good bet for that to continue. So really like what we saw out of him in week 9, and I think that will continue with the Colts moving forward.
Can I ask you a quick just tight end question? Because I know we talked about Tyler Warren a lot. I think I don't want to say he's faded a little bit, but he's kind of leveled off. That doesn't mean he's not good, but talk about just looking at Tyler Warren's Trinity. Now, it's a good environment, so that's the thing that kind of makes me a little hesitant, but just talk about the difference in Tyler Warren versus Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. Because I think that is a common question that people go, is he up in that range with those guys yet? And I think if there was a time to kind of move off of him, it's at this time where Kraft is down. Warren, I believe, is still tight end 3. And then we had Loveland with his bust out. We'll look at him in a second. But like, I think you have Loveland and Warren right up there, like tight end 3, tight end 4, Gadsden's tight end 5. I mean, but how far ahead is Bowers and McBride compared to those guys even? Like, would you add to Warren to get one of those guys now that he's at the table in the conversation?
Add what? I think so.
Not a first. I mean, a first like that you think is a well-timed, I can move this first and be okay with it deal. I would rather probably add a player that's not worth a first or that I can't liquidate to a first. But yeah, sure. This is the type of play where this feels like if you do the anti-leverage deal, it could work out better where you just get an absolute monster at tight end and you gave up.
You could just look at the usage. Here goes. There are 2
I put
tight
them all
ends
on
in
the screen and took out the receivers, and you can just clearly see the difference. You know what I mean?
Like there are 2 tight ends who are even utilized like high-end. Just think about that. They're utilized like high-end wide receiver ones. That just lets me know that they are there. And even as you work your way down, Dalton Kincaid is 3rd up in usage. What don't the Bills have? What don't they have?
Receivers.
They don't have any receivers, right?
Yep.
What don't the Raiders have? They really don't have a receiver, right? Like a true number 1, gotta command it guy. The Cardinals, you can argue they may, but the offense still feels like it runs through Trey McBride. Then you've got Sam Laporta, who's having a rebound season, but you look in this range, and Tyler Warren's in a good range. He's in the Gadsden range. He's in there. There's Kyle Pitts. There's Harold Fannin. There's Travis Kelce. You've got Dallas Goedert. Like, this is where let's not get it twisted here, okay? This was a tight end that people thought wouldn't be shit this year playing on Indianapolis, and he's already shown that he is probably a very good bet to be a really good tight end for a long time. But there are levels to it, and the big difference between Indianapolis and Brock Bowers, you'll just see it on the chart. Like there's Bowers, there's Myers, there's Trey Tucker, who's been fine, but there isn't really a true, like, none of their wide receivers are being utilized like him. That's the difference. Arizona, it's only going to be weeks 1 through 8, but Marv will move up. after this week, but as will McBride. Like it will just move. Those two will move to the right some more. So no, he is not in that range. And yes, if I were able to add to any of the tight ends in that range that we were looking at to trade into a Bowers or a Trey McBride, I'd absolutely do it. I'd trade Kincaid plus. I'd trade Sam Laporta. I'd trade Gadsden, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, whomever it is to get into one of those guys. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to point out that Warren has kind of exceeded everybody's expectations, but I think it's probably very realistic that his career trajectory over the next year or two, assuming the Colts environment stays even pretty good, it probably looks more like a Kincaid, Laporta, Pitts. And that's great. That's a top 8 tight end or better. But given that he's tight end 3, and I've heard many people say he's up in the Bowers McBride tier, just wait till his second year or third year when he gets even better. And it's like, I'm willing to bet if I can get into one of those guys, I'm willing to bet, especially if I can do it without a first. Can I add I don't know, think of a receiver, like back to the conversation with adding a guy like Addison, right? Like, can I get a deal like that done in the right league that makes the other person feel like, hey, you can just hear it now, right? Man, I pivoted off McBride and I got that leverage with Warren, you know what I mean? And I got back Chase Brown on top of it. And you're like, that's a good deal if you want 2 players. It's also a good deal if you can afford to give up the extra piece because you are going to literally McBride and Bowers are basically, they're like Puka, Jefferson, Chase range, but they're tight ends. And so that's where you get a big advantage if you do that. I just wanted to point that out, that it's not shitting on Warren. It's just, I'm willing to bet he's more in that second tier. And that's a good feeling if you drafted him in the rookie draft and no one else wanted him. But I think there's a good opportunity the rest of this year to move up.
If you feel that way about Warren, then I'm going to assume that you would do the same thing with Gadsden, with Colston Loveland, with any of those tight ends, right? It's
all those, yes, all those guys. And the reason I mentioned Gadsden, Loveland, and Warren is because they're the rookies. I think people are Pitts and Kincaid kind of have already landed and they're stuck there. They're good, but they're not. They don't have the sex appeal in trades anymore.
Right.
But I think these 3 rookie tight ends, literally Gadsden, Loveland, and Warren are tight end 3, 4, 5 with Kraft out of the way.
Yep.
So let's look at the Bears. Let's look at that Loveland usage for week 9 because I don't know. Did he arrive?
Yeah, okay. Let's
and we don't have Rome on here because he had nothing.
Let's look at Chicago weeks 1 through 8. There they go.
Okay. I want to just want 9 and 9 so that you guys Loveland looks like the best tight end ever.
There's 1 through 8. So going into the week, we've seen the stats. Loveland had 11 catches, 118 yards going into Sunday. He left Sunday. He had 50% of his receptions on the season. He had 100% of his yards. He doubled up. He had 118 yards, and then he had 2 touchdowns, and he had 0 going in. Week 9 was awesome. Week 9 was great. I also read a stat this morning that the Cincinnati Bengals have missed more tackles as a defense than like any defense in the last 10 years. They missed 15 tackles versus the Chicago Bears, which just inexcusable across the board. Whether it was Kyle Monungai running the ball or Loveland's 58-yarder to end the game. Just battle needs to just wrap up, use your arms. But there's Loveland in week 9. Absolute monster performance, but what else do you see? Like, everyone was good except Rome Odunze. 17 points, 23 points, 30 points. Who's this down here? Cole Kmet got you 2 before he got out of there. He outscored Rome. I don't want to overreact. Cincinnati's atrocious. I know that's your squad. Dallas's defense is not good, but I have not seen a defense this bad in Cincinnati. Any and everybody got it done except Odunze. Do I think he's arrived? No. Do I think that they should use him more moving forward? Absolutely. But I'm not 6 receptions, 118 yards, and 58 of them on the last play of the game. I'm not going to go out over my skis just yet.
Yeah, man. Rome had, I think, the 3rd target of the game, and it was like a 25-yard catch that they overruled it. So he dropped it because he literally did drop it. And I don't think they went back to him ever after
He didn't touch the ball again.
He didn't touch the ball. I think he only had 3 targets on the week. The Bengals have allowed 150 more yards to tight ends. They've allowed 12 touchdowns to tight ends this year. No other team has allowed 6 or more. So it's like, if this is one of those where, I mean, you start all your pass catchers, but I think the only good thing they have on offense or on defense is DJ Turner, who did a good job on Rome. But everybody else, it's just start them all. So I think it is a little bit of this matchup. But I think the problem is now, like, Rome's not going to go away. He had the best Trinity score on the Bears by far going into this week. So it's not like he's going to go to 0. You're going to get Luther Burden back. I mean, hopefully Komet's maybe out of the way a little bit, but like, this feels like an environment where Zacchaeus is a big gnat because he's there. You know what I mean? Like, this is not a great environment. Like, let's
look
not
at the
get
chart.
it twisted.
Look at the chart. I mean, I can tell it's not great. There's no clear, through 9 weeks, there's no clear priority. You got a bunch of guys being used. There's a lot, and this doesn't even include running backs, and it doesn't include the 5 to 7 rush attempts Caleb Williams is going to do every week. The best part about this offense, honestly, is the fact that their defense is pretty damn bad too, and they can't stop anybody. So they're probably going to be on a lot of negative game script to where they're going to have to keep the offense on the field and throw the ball. Like, Cincy's defense is awful, but the Chicago Bears gave up 40 as well. And they've given up 40 multiple times this season. The defense stinks. They don't generate pressure, and they give up the longest time to throw in the NFL. But we're going crazy over what Colston Loveland did, and I'm not taking away from his game. 58 of his 118 came on the last play of the game, in which the entire team did not tackle. But on the other side of the ball, Joe Flacco damn near threw for 500 yards. 500 yards in the game. So this environment it's going to be in a spot where they're going to have to throw the ball. Like, the defense is ass, man. The defense is terrible.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything you said. I mean, that when you see these situations where they're favorable game scripts, bad defense, a lot of weapons, maybe the takeaway here, Ray, is, can I turn my Jaden Daniels, who's injured, into Caleb Williams plus?
Okay.
Like, Caleb might be the guy you want. You know what I mean? He can do everything. He can run. He's going to have to throw a lot. I mean, he's got a lot of guys to throw it to. And if you don't want to pick, he's almost like maybe a richer version of what Jordan Love was. Because Jordan Love doesn't have his tight end now. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of feels like maybe Caleb's the pivot. I mean, I have to look. Where do you think Caleb ranks? He's had 3 or 4 stinker games. Where do you think he ranks on the year, fantasy-wise? I think he's up there.
Well, I know going into the week, he was like QB 28, QB 29. Since
he is, I mean, this big game helps his average, but he's still top 10 quarterback right now. He's almost 20 points per game. He's kind of right there.
I thought you said since the bye. I was like, since the bye, he's been QB 30.
Just
total? Okay.
Overall, but he's right there. He's giving you kind of the same as what, like, Bo Nix, Daniel Jones, like, he's giving you some games. He's had 3 games of 25 or more points, and he's had 2 other games with 18 or more, and he's just had some absolute stinkers in there. You know, a 4 and 11 and 11, but maybe he's the guy. Looking at this, he might be the guy. If I need a replacement for my Jaden Daniels, he might be the guy. If I can get another plus on top of it, that might be one of the guys that I go to, because he still has, potential to get better. He still runs. He's still young. I think you can't get into Drake May anymore. Maybe you pivot to Caleb.
Here's since the bye, Scott. Look at this. Since the bye, they're the Bears. You know who's really flown under the radar in all of this is DJ Moore. I mean, we've just talked about the Bears for 10 minutes, and neither one of us have mentioned DJ Moore, who's still just kind of hanging out right at the top. Hasn't been great, but he's leading them in usage since the bye, close to 13 points per game. They give him the ball. They do stuff with him. Rome is 4th since the bye, and that was coming off of a 100-yard game versus the Ravens in week 8. So, and none of them in this high-end range. They're all kind of low-end receiver 1s, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 range right now. Odunze, Loveland, Moore, and Zacchaeus, and then you've got Luther Burden down there and Cole Kmet.
It's tough.
Yeah. All right. Where do you want to go next? Let's go here, because this was This was one of the situations where there was a lot riding on this Jacksonville offense in week 9. There was a lot riding with the outcome of Brian Thomas Jr. And context is always key. You see the final stat line, 3 for 55. Let's not forget that 34 of those 55 yards came in the fourth quarter on one play in which he got injured. It was Parker Washington who led the way, and below the line, anybody with this type of usage for their team should have scored you a lot more points. But Trevor Lawrence was awful. 220 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. He scored 2 rushing touchdowns, so he's good for himself, but he was bad throwing the ball. Nobody above the line. This was versus the Raiders, coming off of a bye. We talked about it privately in the Discord. I was like, I bet you that Travis Hunter injury kind of wrecked the game. But look at it. Nobody good. No tight ends, like Parker Washington was good because he got so much volume, but actually producing based on the type of usage relative to the league, none of them met 50% threshold. So BTJ, nothing. Parker Washington, everything. De'Ami Brown, nothing. And then Tim Patrick was ruled out.
Go to, real quick, I just want to show everybody this because we talked about this 2 weeks ago. They had a bye last week. Go to week 7. Just go 7-7. That was the Europe game. Okay, right. You see Travis Hunter. That was the breakout that we talked about. This is what you wanted. You wanted to see this exact chart in week 9, but it'd say Brian Thomas Jr.
Yep.
Instead, you got Parker Washington. So I think the takeaway for me is, obviously T-Law was bad for another game. It was great if you had him because he still finished as a top 12 quarterback, even though he probably didn't deserve it.
Correct.
But I think the takeaway is probably one of 2 things. I am done, even in best ball leagues, Ray, with having Hunter Long. I picked him up when Brenton Strange went out, and he gets about like 3 points every game. So he's not Brenton Strange. So Brenton Strange might be the guy that you want coming back. Or Parker Washington relative to the market is one of those that, because De'Ami Brown got a concussion, so he's probably out this week. So you're going to get at least another game where if you got to throw Parker Washington in there for the price of a spot starter, and I know this is a 1-week receiver play, but people need players, right? Like you may need somebody for the next week or 2. And
are you paying for him though? Are you paying for him, or would you rather like what are you paying for him for that spot start receiver in a not good offense?
So I need to use him. That's the first thing. I'm not buying him if I go, man, because I have some teams where, hey, I need a third receiver. I need a flex. Like I'll do that. But if I don't need him, I'm not buying him for my bench. But I do think he probably has a role, a pretty strong one the rest of the year, even when Brenton Strange comes back. So it's not like you're buying a 0. It's not like you're buying another opportunity that's going to be gone after a week. He kind of feels like a lot of these other like wide receiver 3s on teams. It's like another Boutte or another Trey Tucker. You just need the game to be good. So I'd pay a third. I'd rather pay a player that can I give you Brashard Smith for him if I need him? That type of trade where I'm giving up something that I'm not using, but is not a pick. It's not something that I can do something with later. But takeaway is probably Brenton Strange or Parker Washington. I don't even know what to say about Brian Thomas anymore.
What do you say? No, we got to say something. Let's look at him for the whole year. For the whole year. He's going to, let me just say this. Some behind the scenes, how the sausage is made, he's going to hurt the Trinity score. He's going to hurt the score because based on what he did last year, his range of outcomes should have been higher. He's going to hurt the score going into 26. This is where he sits for the season. Scott. You're talking about a player who last year, let's just look at weeks 1 through 9 for Jacksonville last year and see where Brian Thomas. This was last year. 1 through 9, well above the line, clear pecking order. There was nobody else. You know, that's where Brian Thomas was at last year. And then this year, you fast forward and, you know, Strange is still there. When he's playing, he's a good bet to be utilized. And Thomas is taking a step back and below the line. Like, where is he at?
Well, I'm thinking of other situations that have been also pretty poor. But he hasn't even performed to where those guys are. I'm thinking of like Nico Collins, Garrett Wilson. You know what I mean? Like, yes, part of it is in his environment isn't good. But you could have looked at last year and said, well, the environment wasn't great last year. And
It
he's
was,
even
yep.
way underproducing from last year. So I don't want to say it's not a BTJ thing, but even if we just accepted that the environment was going to be average at the very best, he's still not even hitting what other receivers that we would assume are
That's what I'm
really good,
saying.
but they're in bad environments. He's not even doing that. So I think
Yep.
there is, I don't, that's why I said I don't know what to do about it, because he's not even earning the type of usage that could lead to more points if the quarterback got better. So kind of makes you just reassess, like, what is he? Is there a disconnect that we just can't quantify or measure? I mean, I don't know.
I have two situations that I'm pretty concerned about. Okay, got two that
Let me see if I
I'm
can guess them. Are they AFC or NFC?
AFC. One of them is AFC. The one we're going to talk about next is AFC.
AFC. So
Concerned. I am concerned. My boy, Scott Connor, my boy.
I mean, you got a lot of boys.
Get the hell out of here. My boy,
I don't know.
AFC. AFC, great offense. Great offense.
Great offense. Buffalo?
Not Buffalo. I ain't got no boys on Buffalo. Played Buffalo. Played
Baltimore.
Buffalo. They played Buffalo this past week. Kansas City.
Oh, okay.
KC, Scott. I'm looking at weeks 1 through 9, and this does include Rashee Rice. But if you just look at the usage for the season when they're on the field, this is how it plays out. I mean, it's Rice, Kelsey. Been pumping that Kelsey all offseason. Loved his opportunity, and he's been delivering. Hollywood Brown, third in the pecking order, and then there's old X-Worthy there. All right. And we know what happened.
So X-Worthy was the boy you're referring to, right?
X-Worthy was the boy. And it started off rough the third play of the season, right? The shoulder injury kind of, we talked about it nuking the steam and the momentum that he probably could have had since Rashee Rice has come back, week 7, weeks 8, and weeks 9. Like, those are the top 3. But look at the clear ladder of priority, Scott. Look at it's just a very clear, that's the guy, that's the next guy, and he can get what's left, right? And he's not so bad. He's not bad enough that you're benching him, but he ain't good enough to where when you're playing him, you're feeling good with the outcome either. I am concerned. I'm concerned that the window for him to have made his name in this offense, it was gone when he busted his shoulder up. He had, that was a 6-7 week runway that he had without Rashee Rice, but now Rice is back. Kelsey's playing good ball. And then these guys they get thrown the ball enough to just eat away at whatever additional shit Worthy can get. I'm a little concerned, Scott. I am on a scale of 1 to 10 is like a 6.5. 7.
Well, you know what's interesting? What I'm looking at this and seeing is that, like, if we remember, those that have not played for a long time, like Hollywood Brown was kind of X-Worthy before X-Worthy. You know what I mean? And he's still hanging around enough.
Yep.
To where that feels like the guy that if he wasn't there, just a little bit more might go to X-Worthy and he would be playable. But that it does feel like we talked about the Chiefs being one of the better environments. They still are. But it still feels like you kind of got to throw Hollywood Brown or X-Worthy in there, and you just hope every week. One of them may do something, but you never thought that it would be those two in that conversation of like the throw-in flex play, right? Worthy was a receiver that when Rice went down last year, like people were paying at least a first. He was a top 12 receiver for people, and now we're getting back to the point. Like, what is, even knowing Kelsey's probably done after this year, have you already kind of bucketed what X-Worthy is going forward? Is he always going to be one of these just
boom bust number 2s?
And I guess my question is, has he even earned the clout that he's as good as a T. Higgins or a Devontae Smith? You know what I mean? Is he even there yet?
No, he has not earned. No, he has not earned that yet. No, I don't believe he has earned that credit yet. He feels like he is in like the JMO, but not as good as JMO range. And
Yeah,
I'm
not
not,
not
I'm not,
not as good. I'd rather have
yeah,
JMO,
and I'm not
honestly.
dogging out Worthy, man. I'm not dogging him out, but I will let's do this, Scott. Check this out. Let's see what the data, not what the projected role change. It has nothing to do with Rashee Rice's suspension or the expected role. Let's just look at based on his data and his usage from last year and the historical comparisons where Xavier Worthy slotted in for 2025. This is the range of outcome tool. It looks at usage, it looks at past results, and it gives you a high end range of outcome for fantasy finish, top 10%, right? So just based on what Worthy did last year, we're not segmenting shit out. It doesn't factor. His high end outcome, top 10% outcome for fantasy scoring was 14.6 points per game. His medium range outcome, just the most common results around the player that was utilized like Worthy last year, 5.23 adjusted Trinity score was 9.9 points. And he's right at about 9 points right now. Like he's right there in that middle range of outcome based on what he did. Like the tool kind of told us this might be who he is. Like that's what it said. It was spot on. You know, even on a high end, I don't see him exceeding. I don't think he's going to be used enough to get to that 15, 16, 17 point range, Scott. Like on a high end, you're probably hoping for 14, 15 points for Worthy at the end of the year.
So take away Worthy's name and just look at your screen. Look at the data that you see, right? Look at the graph. Look at the outcome ranges. Take away Worthy and put in the name Quentin Johnston. Just humor me. Just put in QJ. What do you see?
All right. You want to put in QJ?
Yep, put in QJ instead of Worthy. And just look at your screen. Identical. Both former first rounders, both have efficient quarterbacks, both with high pass rates last year. But just think of the difference in how they were viewed. Even early on in the year. I know Worthy got injured, but like it's kind of a stark reminder that sometimes, I mean, that example right there is the definition of the sentiment and the ADV difference in players.
100%.
That's it. So
100%. Let's look at that Brian Thomas since we're here and why. Because people would be like, Ray, why do you say he's going to hurt the score? Well, based on his usage,
this is where 19 points per game.
Yeah, this is where he was supposed to be on the high end. He's not even at his medium range outcome, Scott. I mean, he's not even at the low. Like he is going to drag the score down if we can't even get here. This is not good for Brian.
I don't see a way he hits 13.3 points per game at this point. He would have to go.
He's gonna tear I'm gonna remove him from the thing so it doesn't bring the correlation down more. All right, where are we going now, Scott? I'm telling you, if you're here, you probably have access to the tool. Just go back and look through some of those, Scott, at how pretty dead on accurate it was based on that usage and tracking that. It's kind of cool to see. It's kind of sad to see, but it's kind of cool to see. And no, tight ends are not included. It's only receivers in that. We'll see if we get tight ends in there next year. Where you want to go now?
We probably got time for one or two more. Anything stick out to you as like we got to see?
Yeah. Let me hit on the other one. I said I had two.
You said there was two AFC ones you were concerned about.
What do you think? There's something going on in Denver?
I was actually looking at them. I mean,
let's go. If
you look at the last,
3 weeks?
3 weeks, 4 weeks. I mean, you know what's going on, Ray? I'll tell you one thing that is going on because I think anybody that's had him this year has felt it. Evan Ingram, they don't even use him, so. That's one of those where I had a lot of Evan Ingram, and he's not. You hoped that he would get the usage similar to kind of what like the Hunter Henrys, that type of usage. Even if he's the third option, you're hoping it's usable. But I mean, for the season, I think he's down in the 2-3s. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
you can't use him.
No.
So I don't know. I think there's some clarity. I think it's probably who's the wide receiver one in Denver going forward. Is it closer between Franklin and Sutton than it was a month ago?
I,
I mean, that's what the data says, right?
it's here it is for the season. What this shows me, first of all, this is weeks 1 through 9. Bo Nix it hasn't been the greatest second season, but he also isn't tanking his weapons either.
Correct.
You know? Like he's not. He's not killing. If you have Cortland Sutton and you're getting 13 points out of him per game collectively, it's probably what Cortland Sutton is going to do, right, Scott? On a high end, I bet if we, that's probably where he's at. Franklin, I think, is a nice, I don't want to say story. He's probably a really good player, but I don't think this is a high-end receiver either. Really good player, but not high-end. The one thing that I think is not telling on here is that the running backs would probably, like they do throw the ball to the backs. They're starting to do that a little bit more. So it's just, I think it just limits the ceiling for these two guys in particular. If I want two pass catchers, it's still Franklin and Sutton, and I'd venture to say that you can get Sutton relatively cheap because he's just Cortland Sutton, a 30-year-old wide receiver, and Franklin's the second-year breakout hotness. So I still like both of those guys in Denver. But
it kind of also feels
Ingram
like
was the
team
concern because I got a lot of Ingram, and he's just, I mean, he's borderline unplayable.
Not usable. Here's the thing. Even if his Trinity usage was low, like he's not even getting any targets, which impacts the Trinity. But even if he's not being used anywhere that's exciting on the field, he's not even getting targets. Like he used to be a guy where you could count on him getting, 5 for 40. It was his bad game. You know what I mean? Now he's not even getting that. So he might be cooked at this point. I think if this is a team that could trade for a receiver too, right? They've been linked to Shaheed.
Yeah,
I think that would be a good fit considering what he does. He's probably better than Marvin Mims. But I could see that, but it would make it even messier for the situation. You know what I mean? You add like a Shaheed into this circumstance, and it'd be like now you have 3 receivers that none of them are probably in the top 20, but they're all probably guys you have to play. So
Minnesota, week 9. Let's talk about it.
I have not looked at Minnesota. Let's take a look.
Take a look. Take a look.
Okay. Speaking of tight ends that are not great, another week for Hawk. What's Hawk for the season? Like a 4, maybe 4.63.
I don't know. That was Ty DeClaire's boy coming into the year. 4.63 for the season. This is Minnesota for the season, but let's look at them weeks. Let's just look at what happened in week 9. You had, I'm not even going to say elite usage, but for Minnesota's team, this is the team, right? Justin Jefferson was the guy on Sunday, for what that's worth, okay? It wasn't a huge statistical output, but of the pizza that they baked on Sunday, I think that's a good way to, the pie that they baked on Sunday, the pizza that they made on Sunday, Justin Jefferson got the biggest slice, right? He got the biggest slice of that pie on Sunday. But it wasn't a very big pie either. I think they completed 14 passes, threw the ball like 23, 24 times. Addison, outside that one long catch, he didn't do anything. Outside the touchdown, Hawkinson did nothing. It's only his 3rd career start, so I'm not trying to dog him out. This is not a bash J.J. McCarthy session going on, but it is, what are your expectations for this passing attack? Like, what do you expect out of this on a week-to-week basis? I heard you and Brandon and if anybody on here is a member and you guys aren't watching the Dynasty Takeaway show on Monday evenings with Scott and Brandon, please do that because they're just talking all things Dynasty fantasy football. Not so much the box score of the game, but like how do these things relate to Dynasty? And I heard the conversation about if you lost Jaden Daniels, would you move him for a McCarthy plus, right? And I know the fantasy output was great for McCarthy, or fine, but I'm still very skeptical on this offensive passing attack, personally. Still very skeptical. I don't want to buy into really anybody right now because I don't think there's enough information to make sweeping conclusions about who McCarthy is as a passer.
We'll go to real quick. Just put week 1 and 2 on the screen because we looked at this before he got injured.
All right.
So you see week 1 and 2 for the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
I get it, his first 2 games, but everybody below the line, right? And then week 9, similar. Jefferson slightly above the line, but the reality is he's only played 3 games. The rest of the season is only going to be games, 4 through 10. So I'm not guessing that there's probably going to be more than 1, maybe 2 players you can start in the passing environment, and it's Jefferson and Addison. But I'm not even looking at them like in the pecking order compared to other teams 1 and 2s. This isn't a situation I'm going to bet on, Ray. I mean, the 3 starts for McCarthy, they've averaged 23 pass attempts a game. Kind of smells a lot like what he was at Michigan, right? Like you want it to be efficient when he throws it, but the goal is not to go out there and play like they were playing with Carson Wentz or play like they did with Kirk Cousins or I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's an environment. It's going to have to probably morph more into what you want it to look ultimately kind of like what the Lions look like or what the Packers look like or what the Seahawks look like, where it isn't going to be the Kirk Cousins offense. I don't care how good McCarthy is. I don't think he's that type of quarterback. You're going to need it to be an offense that lives on efficiency and it hums every week, and you can start 2 guys within it. But the one good thing about the Vikings, Ray, is they don't have any gnats. They use like 4 guys, and one of them's Jalen Naylor, so you don't care.
Right.
So at least you can salvage by using the 3 guys they do use, but like I'm still not even expecting of those 3 more than 1.5 of them to have good games. And I know 1.5 is impossible, but you get what I'm saying. It's not a great environment, and they probably don't want it to be. They don't want it to be they don't want it to look like the Chargers or the Colts, or they don't want it to look like that on purpose.
Justin Jefferson is currently pacing and tracking for his lowest fantasy production of his career this year. 15 points per game for Justin Jefferson. That's good for wide receiver 10 in PPR. He has not had a season in his career under 17 points per game, Scott. And that was his rookie year where he was 17 points per game. This is year 6 for Jefferson.
Yep.
All I'm doing is asking the question. I'm just asking the question. Is it time to think about making a move? Is it time to think about, because he still feels like he's got the name, right? He probably is a top 3 receiver in the NFL, like real NFL football. But for fantasy, if you're not trusting this environment, we don't think McCarthy's going to be a quarterback to launch it 35 times, and when he throws it, it's hit or miss. You've been living on touchdowns with Jefferson this year. We've been surviving by the fact that he's so good that he will get in the end zone. Like he's going to be the primary red zone target. He's getting the end zone looks. He's going to. He's had 200-yard games on the season, and neither of them came with McCarthy. Where are you at? I mean, we're talking about a wide receiver whose highest fantasy finish on the season is wide receiver 8.
Yeah, man, like the fact that we even have to say 15.5 points per game is kind of a down season. Like that just shows you how good he is.
Yes.
But I think the question is, if I can get a receiver that maybe is on.
Here it is. Player profiler, man. This is what he's done this season.
Yep. I think the idea would be take the name Justin Jefferson that most people would still rank in their top 5 dynasty receivers.
Yes.
And can I pivot somewhere else for a name that people do not consider to be elite, but I'm looking at the usage, I'm looking at the production. Can I pivot into one of those guys, buy a few years, and probably, if things trend how they are, get more fantasy production, or at least equivalent with maybe a little higher upside going forward? Can I get Drake London for Justin Jefferson? Is that one you would do?
Yes.
Who would you rather have right now, straight up?
Drake.
Would you rather have Drake London?
Drake
Rashee Rice or Justin Jefferson?
Rashee Rice.
I mean, I think those are 2 that if you're willing to include him in the deal, those are absolutely attainable. because they're not viewed as like an ironclad top 5 receiver in Dynasty. But if you look at both of their usage and both of their production, it's hard to say that they're going to go anywhere but stay where they are. And
let me ask
you know
you
what I
this,
mean?
because I like cross positional. Can I turn my Jefferson into Brock Bowers or Trey McBride?
I think you can. Now, depends on the premium, depends on the tight end market in the league. It also depends on my roster construction too. Like if I already have, a couple of these tight ends that I've been using, I may be more hesitant to do that. But at the same time, could I do a deal where, here's a good one. Let's say, Ray, you had a team where you were kind of platooning a couple tight ends and they weren't the big sexy names, but let's say you had like a Kyle Pitts, Hunter Henry platoon or something like that. That's been getting you by. You probably have top 5 production if you've nailed some of the sit starts between those two guys, right? Can I trade Jefferson for McBride and then turn around and move one of those guys for the Alec Pierce, the Romeo Dobbs, that type? And you basically just do a 2-for-2 deal, but you switch your team construction to where now you have the elite tight end and you're kind of just playing the receiver stream game. You know what I mean? Like you could do something like that. But if you do that, you just got to have the right roster around it. But I think you can make that deal. I think you can, depending on how the tight ends are valued in your league. I think you can.
You know what's interesting, Scott, about this chart right here that we've never really talked about, but it just shows how thin the margins are and how different a difference maker really is. Just look at the back of the chart. Look at the tail of the graph and look at just the sheer cluster of dots, right? That are right there, low usage, kind of like this just shows there's just so many, right? And people, you might be in a range where you're thinking about Tolbert and there's Isaiah Likely and Austin Hooper, Terrence Ferguson. I saw Pat Bryant, Yoshi Voss, JT Sanders, Jalen Coker was in here. You start looking at this range at just how many random ass bodies are just available on a week-to-week basis. Xavier Hutchinson, Marvin Mims, Demario Douglas. Like it just, what we're going to start doing at the end of this show is we're going to look at this quadrant right over here. We're going to look at this bottom right quadrant below the line, and we're going to pick somebody that we think has got an opportunity to flip, to be, above expectation going into week 10. So we're going to do that. When you're looking at this bottom right quadrant range for the season, do you want to go the season? We go last 3 weeks. Let's go last 3 weeks to make the sample size a little. Who from this range that's kind of underproducing right now do you think has got a chance to flip the script here in week 10? We've got Zay Flowers. We've got Alec Pierce down here. Romeo Dobbs is below that line. This is how you use this tool to go try to buy some players that may be underproducing. Shaheed is down here. McMillan. Who's this? Is that Jefferson, Jordan Addison? Who's one for you? Wan'Dale Robinson. That's below the line over the last 3 weeks that you think has got a chance here in week 10.
I think you could probably put either of the Giants receivers on there if you wanted.
Okay.
Between Slayton and Wan'Dale, like they're going to have to continue. And I do think, you've read the stuff about Dayball. Like I do think he's probably going to want to show a little bit of what he has with Dart. Like that's a team that I'm pretty sure is not going to quit because I think they have a lot to play for that has nothing to do with wins and losses. So I think one of those two, how cheap are we going? Because there's obviously ones on here where you're
I think just in this range. I like looking
here's
right
a
in
good
here.
one, Ray. Here's a good one that from a narrative standpoint, things flipped. Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers, he's below that line. 7.7, 11 points.
Zay Flowers, if you're going to buy in on the Ravens turning it around, he's going to have some spike weeks because know their defense isn't as good as it's shown. He's by far the best option on the Ravens. And not every game are they going to be winning by 3 touchdowns and they're going to be able to run the clock out. So that's probably one where if Zay Flowers has 3 more games this year where he goes, 8 for 100 and a touchdown, I wouldn't shock me. Because it's not the tight ends on the Ravens. That's the thing. Like those are the main target competition, and it's not them. So here's a fun stat for you. I was just running some data real quick. So this year already, we have had 52 different receivers in the NFL have put up 20 or more points in a game.
Wow.
Think about that. We're not talking like 10 points. We're talking you score 20 plus. That's a spike week. And some of these are ones I guarantee people didn't capture.
Correct.
But at the same time, it just shows you that, we just talked about Justin Jefferson is wide receiver 11. He's averaging 15 a game. And you've had 52 different guys put up 20-plus point weeks. I mean, no names, guys that are completely off the radar already. Guys like Hunter Renfrow. Those types of players did it. Like, he doesn't even play anymore.
Yep.
But that just shows you how random these weeks are and how important they are. I've talked about this on Destination Dynasty. How great of a feeling is it when you start that random receiver and he's the guy that pops off for 25? I mean, you can't find a cheaper bang for your buck play than when you find the random receiver and he smashes out of nowhere. I mean, how good did it feel if you had those Kendrick Bourne games where he went off, a guy off waivers that you captured? Now, here's the thing, like, Kendrick Bourne is useless now, basically.
Yeah.
Valueless and useless. But if you had him for those games, it's huge. The rate of return on that is so much higher than just jamming in, Jordan Addison into your lineup every week. So something to think about. That's why we made this tool.
Scott, there's some good names in here. I'm going to get the tight ends off and just focus on the receivers. Here go a few, all right? And then we'll get out of here. You got Parker Washington at below the line, high usage. I think that is an easy one to see flipping above that line and that usage translating out. You've got Wan'Dale Robinson down here. I just went the last 3 games as well. Rashid Shaheed, you've got Tedero McMillan, Emeka Egbuka, a lot of usage, not a lot of fantasy production. Romeo Dobbs, we've talked about him. George Pickens, this doesn't include week 9, but George Pickens, I think he'll be closer to the line after this week. You've got Justin Jefferson, Alec Pierce, and Zay Flowers. They are the highest 2 usage for like low production. Those are the 2 leaders right there. And I think those are actually 2 really good names. Pierce and Flowers. Nobody else below the line has been used more than those 2 guys on their team. And ironically, both of those 2 guys, if we just go Indy and Baltimore, probably lead their team in overall use. There they are. Zay Flowers, Alec Pierce, and then Pittman slightly ahead of Pierce. 8.16 to 8.13. I think Zay Flowers, and if we just let's take off Indy to just look at Baltimore and Zay. Like, yeah, man. Like, Lamar's back. This should flip. That should flip into the positive. Let's go week 9. He's still leading the usage. There's Isaiah Likely down there in week 9. I like the Flowers call. I like Flowers and Pierce. Those would be 2 names we keep on our radar and we check in going back after week 10 to see how they do. I like both of those guys. And there's week 9. There's Alec Pierce led the way. Zay Flowers led the way. Not a lot in between. There's a Kohler. There's a Downs. No Warren. And both these teams run the ball, which should lead for opportunity down the field for those guys. I like those 2 names, Flowers and Pierce.
Yeah, I mean, this is guys to consider. This is the area you want to look. If you have that injured Travis Hunter and you want to try to get some production for him, like I don't think Zay Flowers would be the worst pivot from a guy like Hunter because he's still young. He still is going to have a similar role in his offense next year, etc. Same with Tucker Kraft, depending on the premium. Can I get Zay Flowers for Tucker Kraft? Can I add a third? Something like that, like that. Those are the types of buys that you want to bet on going forward. Flowers has already had his buy. I actually like Flowers even better because, like, he's got nothing else in his offense either. Like, his usage is so far above everybody else. You're really just betting on the Ravens offense getting back on track like they were last year. If so, he should smash.
All right. Wrap us up, Scott. Good show today, man. Good conversation, good show, and I like this time. This was nice.
Yeah, it was. For those that catch this before waivers, good luck getting what you want, making some deals. Again, the Trinity Tool available at ddfantasyfootball.com. You are using this to try to separate yourself from your league mates and how you value receivers and how you view the position. It's the first tool on the market that's been able to give you a better glimpse at how to nitpick some of these situations where you can find that random 20-point spike week receiver, because it is still, I think, the biggest bang for your buck if you can capture one. Content schedule will be a little different next year with the Super Stream event that we're doing. We'll put out some more information on the schedule for that, but maybe a little different in terms of the content for next week. But good luck to everybody Week 10. Thank you to our members, as always. Dynasty Deal Show coming up on Friday night. And if you're tuning into this after the fact on YouTube alone, consider becoming a member. That's all I got.
Yeah, check out Dynasty Deal Show on Friday. We appreciate your guys' patronage over here. Wake Up with Jay Rich and myself. Subscribe to the podcast feed. Check out all the content over on DDFFB. And I'm telling y'all, like, your members here, so we keep the ads off. But if you're looking for a community to hear Scott and other passionate people who truly live, eat, sleep, breathe fantasy football, and in particular Dynasty, micro moves, big moves, transactions, highly, highly, highly encourage you to join the Heisman tier. Just give it a month. If you join and you're active and you're in there for a month and you absolutely freaking hate it, hit me up. Like, if you join and hate it, hit me up. I'm not in the business to take your money. I'm truly trying to grow this community because I know there's a lot of people out there that love this stuff, Scott, and they're looking for a place to talk about it. People are finding lifelong friends out of that. You literally get to hear Scott talk damn near every single day, multiple hours a day. Great community. Highly encourage you giving it a shot. So appreciate y'all being here. We'll do this again next week. Like Scott said, we've got the super stream, our premium live stream, November 12th, midseason mayhem. We're going about 3 hours that night talking all things Dynasty Fantasy Football. So we'll see when we get the Trinity out, but we promise you we will get that done. So thank y'all. We love y'all and see you next week.